Welcome to OurSport. I'm Larry. I'm your host as always. John is doing the recording and editing, providing occasional commentary. So the 2020 NFL Draft is over, and this episode we're going to talk about some of our winners and losers. Next episodes are going to be a little longer, going to be draft grades for the AFC and NFC. And let's start with the most obvious loser, the strangest pick of the 2020 draft, the Philadelphia Eagles taking Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts in the second round. Now, I don't know. Now, people like the Packers for drafting Utah State's quarterback Jordan Love, but say this about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is in his late 30s. He could be at a decline phase. The Eagles just signed their quarterback Carson Wentz, who's 27 years old, to a $130 million contract less than a year ago. And they spent a second-round pick on Jalen Hurts, a quarterback. Even worse is that Wentz was not playing at an all-pro level, but occasionally he'd have all-pro plays. Their receivers, terrible, awful. Not only hurt, but could not make plays. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was basically a tremendous bust in the second round. And Wentz would pull plays out of his at the last minute. He'd throw a bomb right in his receiver's hands, and the guy would drop it, and they'd lose the chance to win the game. So he badly needs help at receiver. In the first round, here comes CeeDee Lamb, regarded by many as the best receiver in the draft, sliding down to the Eagles. They think they're going to get him. And Atlanta won't make a trade with him at the 16th spot for them to get ahead of Dallas.
Well, would. They just had to give up a second.
Yeah, they had to give him a second-round pick. I'm sorry. Atlanta wanted a second-round pick, which that is kind of rich, I admit, but they wouldn't do it. And so not only did they lose CeeDee Lamb, they lose him to the Dallas Cowboys. And if there's anything in this world the Philadelphia Eagles fans hate, it's the Dallas Cowboys. And they lost the guy they wanted most. They were getting so excited. So, in the second round, again, they had a receiver, Jalen Reagor, to set up for him in the first round. It really was a bit of a reach. But they're looking at Trevon Diggs. The Eagles fans were happy about him. He started to slide. Big prototype corner out of Alabama. He goes to the Cowboys, even worse. But there's still good corners on the board. And get one of those guys. Play with Darius Slay. This is the biggest need on the Eagles. And out of the blue, they draft this kid. And I don't know why. The Eagles fans, you say what you want about them. They've got a reputation as being, abrasive and coarse and starting fistfights in the stadium, whatever. You say this about them. They know football. Those are smart fans. They know football. And there were two reactions at the same time. Anger and complete bewilderment. The entire attitude was an angry, what the is this?
Who would I be happy with at pick 53? Christian Fulton, Denzel Mims. That's it.
Hey, man. Take Robbins or Christian Fulton, please.
Give me my nigga Denzel Mims.
Looking at my guys here, Christian Fulton from LSU is still on the board. Zach Bond, outside linebacker from Wisconsin.
Come on, take a linebacker, please.
Who do you think? Linebacker? Lineman?
Yeah, linebacker.
Don't you go reaching again. Don't you reach again.
Just want 5 minutes of happiness, please.
You better not fuck this up. I swear to fucking God, Howie. You better not fuck this up. Do not fuck this shit up, bitch.
Dude, just don't fuck up this pick. Just don't fuck up the pick.
Fuck this shit up, bitch.
Is in for the Philadelphia Eagles.
With the 53rd pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Oklahoma.
What the fuck? What?
What? You did not, Howie. You did not. Jalen Hurts?
What the fuck? Jalen Hurts?
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck?
What?
I'm fucking done.
What?
I'm done. I'm fucking done with this.
What?
What? What is going on?
I can't believe this shit, bro.
What the fuck?
Completely different quarterbacks. As a freshman, he was
Wow.
Now, when you look at it, when you go in depth, it gets even worse. It gets even worse than this because, yeah, there are some friendly media in the Philly area. Unlike other places like Atlanta where it's all friendly, there are some confrontational media too. And there were some lines that the Eagles clearly fed to the friendly media. Well, he's going to be on a rookie salary cap. And I'm serious here. This is one of the things they said. Well, you know, we think our quarterback could get coronavirus. So we have an option if our quarterback gets coronavirus.
Yes.
Right?
If your whole team dies in the plane crash, you have the water boy now.
What? So
football.
what? And you know the fans in Philly too smart. They didn't buy this. What are you talking about? Now it gets even worse than this. Apparently, Press Taylor, the offensive assistant, young guy, college guy, he has a plan where they're playing two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. In a way, he thinks this is the offense of the future of the NFL. And he's serious, and the Eagles might be buying in. So I want you to picture this. I want you to picture, now he's talking about like two actual quarterbacks, not a guy who can throw like Mohamed Sanu, who kind of has that ability, he can run a trick play. He's talking about as an offense consistently with two quarterbacks. So here's the deal. Your quarterback's on the field. You have 5 eligible receivers on any play. Sometimes you keep some in the block, etc. Everybody knows that. Now, when you have 2 quarterbacks on the field, let's say Jalen Hurts gets the pass on a handoff and he does a rollout. You have 4 eligible receivers, and your 5th is Carson Wentz. So, what you want, this is a good idea. You want some kind of gimmicky slap college offense where you have your $130 million quarterback who is 2 notches, who's an athletic kid. He's really athletic. 4 quarterback. You want this kid who's injury prone and 2 levels of athleticism below your all-pro tight end, catching passes from an inaccurate quarterback, maybe over the middle of the field. This is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. I've heard some dumb football. This is really dumb. This, if they do this, if they're serious with this, it's bad enough if they would have just taken this quarterback and they would have said, hey, well, I don't know, whatever they said. That was bad enough. But this reminds me of, and I can't believe their coach is doing this. This coach won a Super Bowl. This reminds me of when Lou Holtz went to the Jets and he started running the veer in the 70s with Joe Namath and his bad knees. Coming out there saying he thinks the veer is a viable NFL offense. I have no idea what the Eagles are doing. Eagles fans, again, smart fans. They know football. They don't like their GM. They haven't liked him for a while. They have said before, we are not drafting well. That is correct. They are not drafting well. And this was the worst pick of the entire draft. Probably the worst Eagles pick since they drafted John Harris. Eagles fans, you know who that was. And, shoot, buddy, that's terrible.
It's worse once you know what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, the pick in itself was pretty terrible in a vacuum. And once you hear the plans for him, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. Okay, let's get to something a little cheerier. Winners. I happen to love the Jets draft. I thought it was great. Mekhi Becton slides to them. They don't have to trade up. There are 4 tackles with equitable value, and they knew they were probably going to get one. If not, some player of potential all-pro ability is going to fall to them. Either way, they win. They got him. Joe Douglas, renowned as an offensive line guy. Loves the offensive line, knows it well, studies it. A great pick for them. Denzel Mims in the 2nd round. Big receiver out of Baylor. Slides right down to them. Excellent. And you look all throughout their draft, they did great. Ashton Davis, safety out of Cal in the 3rd round. I love this pick. I remember this is one of the best Cal secondaries in decades. Basically, all of them could have got drafted. And Davis was the best one out of them. Their nickname was the Takers. And this guy was a decathlete. This guy was like a multi-sport player. He's a great athlete. And his coach had a great quote about him. There are players with high drama, medium drama, no drama, and then Ashton. He's like no maintenance whatsoever. You just love hearing things like that. Later on, James Morgan in the 4th round. Guy with a lot of traits out of Florida International. Big quarterback, smart kid, magna cum laude in law school. When he was in Bowling Green, he transferred. It's a minor thing. It matters. It shows the guy's commitment. And he has an NFL frame and NFL arm all the way down. The punter, A&M, in a 6th round, they just nailed every pick. When we're going to do a draft grades next week, they're going to get an A+. I believe they're going to probably the only A+ in our drafts. We have some A's. Losers, Aaron Rodgers. Now, I don't say the Packers. A lot of people killed them for drafting Utah State quarterback Jordan Love, I believe with the 26th pick. They traded up for him. Let's think about this. We have a way that we think about what is and what is not proper and what should be done in terms of the NFL. And that has been skewed by the fact that 28, 27 GMs do not feel safe in their job. So they take safe picks. They do not take risks. They're risk averse. What's the GM and the coach's number one job?
Don't get fired.
Number one, don't get fired. That's what they're thinking about. Don't get fired. Okay, but if you were smart, this is a smart pick. This is an event. You're protecting your franchise. You're investing for the future because you got damn lucky to get Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was at the end of his career. How did that work out? That worked out really well. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying that. And he has some spotty ability in his play, but they didn't take him with the 3rd overall pick. They took him with the 26th overall pick. There are a lot of scouts. I'm not the one saying this. There are a lot of scouts saying this. He has the most upside of any quarterback in this draft. Big frame. Patrick Mahomes type of highlights. Crazy highlights. Huge 10.5-inch hands. Okay. You look at all the other traits he has. He had a bad senior year. Given. But this was a good pick at this spot. So the Packers are not the loser. The loser is Aaron Rodgers. Because Aaron Rodgers could use some receiver help. But now, more than anything else, Aaron Rodgers is in the spotlight. Because he was pretty outspoken. Well, as outspoken he gets. You know, his little snarky snide comments with little, you know, he's kind of a diva about how Brett Favre treated him. And I'm not saying Brett Favre was right. But he made it well known how Brett Favre treated him. Well, now the shoe's on your foot, Aaron Rodgers. Now the shoe is on your foot. Because this exact situation happened to you, and you are Brett Favre. So if you act like a jackass and you come out there and say things like, I don't want to help this kid, it's not my job to coach him, then you know what the comparisons are. So not only did he not get receiver help, which he needed, he got competition. Well, this kid's not competition for Aaron Rodgers for at least a couple of years. Later on, we'll see. But the media spotlight is under him, and Rodgers is not the kind of quarterback who's proper, who always says the right things. He's kind of his own man, and he could, I'm not going to say he's going to go off the rails, but we get to see what he acts like now when he's in circumstances he doesn't like. Winner. Winner, Brett Favre. Laughing his ass off. Laughing his ass off right now, guarantee you. Loser, the San Francisco 49ers. Traded their 1st round pick, got a 1st round pick for defensive lineman DeForest Buckner, trade him to the Colts, the 13th overall pick, and picked another defensive lineman. Has a similar body type, not exactly the same. Now, why wouldn't you just keep DeForest Buckner? Because the 13th pick in the draft, DeForest Buckner is worth that. DeForest Buckner might be worth a top 6 pick in this draft. A guy with his dimensions, a under 30, mid-20s defensive tackle who can get pass rush, who gets sacks, and is productive. I know you have to pay him. I know. They paid Eric Armstead. They chose to pay him. They saved money. It was a few million more a year. They're kind of built the same. They're not the same player. They're both out of Oregon. There's this prototype that apparently Chip Kelly had. Man, they're not the same player. DeForest Buckner was the better player. And if Javon Kinlaw, who has immense potential, but that boy is up and down. If Javon Kinlaw, he's an NFL player now. You have no idea what he is because he's never played it down in the NFL. You know what DeForest Buckner was. You knew what he was because you had him on your team. And I don't care what someone said. Nobody thought Trent Richardson could bust. That guy busted. So what's the chances he can live up to his potential? 60, 50, 40%, 80%? What's the chances that he just lives up to some of his potential? Let's say he's a good player and he's 80% of his potential. Well, at his best, at 100%, he could beat DeForest Buckner. But you already had DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner is 100% of DeForest Buckner. He's a certainty. You already know what you had. Why would you get rid of this guy? And to save money. And if you did, why don't you use that pick on another position? If you gave Eric Armstead all that money, you still gave him a lot. You still have the other defensive lineman, a well-regarded defensive line. I just can't stand that pick for the 49ers. They didn't have a good draft in general. Winner, conversely, the Colts. You look what the Colts did. They got Buckner in the first round. This team, basically, they got Buckner in the first round. Worth it. And they had a ton of cap room. They could afford to get him. And we're used to, you know, you have to kind of have this in your mind, what the Colts were when Peyton Manning was there. They were that Tampa 2 defense with undersized pass rushers, Dwight Freeney, and this is a big team now. You look at Michael Pittman at receiver, Jonathan Taylor at running back, not a need. They have some good depth. He's 226 pounds, but he can run. He runs legitimately under 4.40. There's about half dozen of those guys coming into the league every year that legitimately can do that. Buckner is, Buckner's different than Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is 6'2", 285, a lot of quickness. Buckner has some quickness and agility and stuff, but he's 6'7" and 300 pounds. And you could say this about Aaron Donald one day. Maybe eventually that size will take a toll on him. He'll wear down. DeForest Buckner's not going to be wearing down because of size. That's the guy you want at the end of the year when everybody is tired. You're making a playoff run, and he's got to bang on injured offensive linemen who have been playing for 16, 17, 18 games. A great pick. This team got big at almost every position. They're going to do well on our draft grades. Loser. The LSU Tigers. I'm sure they don't mind, but they had 14 players drafted. I believe it's the most in a draft. 10 in the first 3 rounds. Last I checked, they had another 3 players that were taken as undrafted free agents. I'm sure they'll have more. That means you've got, by my count so far, 17 players off your team that are going to be in NFL camps. Okay, that's hard to replace that. Even a team that recruits well, like LSU and Alabama, that's going to be hard to replace, considering especially how high some of them went. A quarterback who they'll admit this, LSU fans, we're never going to have a quarterback like this again. We're never going to have a quarterback season like this again. That dude was special, the first pick in the draft. And, if you asked them before the year, LSU fans, you're going to have 14 players taken in the draft. Next year, you might legitimately be an 8-4 team, 7-5 team, but you get a national championship for the ages, an undefeated season. Would they have taken it? Yeah, sure they would. So, good for them. I'm sure they don't mind. Winners, Arizona Cardinals. I thought that the Cardinals took good players at almost every position. They're going to do well in our draft grade. But what really helped them is, if you look, a lot of teams in their division all had bad drafts. I wasn't impressed with hardly any of the drafts. The Seahawks kind of go their own way when it comes to drafting anyway, and sometimes it works out. They'll get a DK Metcalf, and that'll work fine. Other times they'll get spotty results from Bruce Irvin, who they spent a first-round pick on. They'll take L.J. Collier in the first round, things like that. We talked about what the Niners did, and I was not impressed by the Rams either. Meanwhile, the Rams, the Cardinals got better than all those teams and have all this to build on. Last year, they had the quarterback, went 1 overall, got Nuke Hopkins in a trade. Overall, this year, they could make a major change. They could make a run at that division because aside from Russell Wilson, I don't know who scares me in that division beside, the Niners on offense, Kyle Shanahan. When he's not playing in playoff games, that's a dangerous coach. So the Cardinals, though, I love what they did in this draft. I love how much better they're going to be next year. And winners, all of us who finally had something to watch that was real sports. All of us that were sitting around having to deal with this. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And we had something that was actually substantive. There's not a repeat of the 1986 World Series on TV. It was good to have football. I think the season's going to start on time, the NFL season. I hear the college season may start in February, which would be odd, but I'm not sure it's that bad. We'd have 7 straight months of football. So despite the fact that corporate stooge robot Roger Goodell was up there doing his best to try to ruin it, he couldn't. The draft was fun. It was good to see this. Everybody had a good time.
Hey, it's John with messy hair and in a robe because my father doesn't rest when it comes to this channel. So I'm here to do the outro because he dragged me out of bed. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of our content, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Next week, we're going to be doing our official draft grades for every team where we give like a letter grade. And then we're going to go a bit more into depth into, like every single team other than just like general winners and losers. If you have another topic for us to cover, you can comment it down in the comment section below. We're really small right now, so we'll probably get around to it pretty fast. If you have another way to come into contact with us, we have our Facebook, our Twitter, we have a Gmail, and those are always great ways where you can come into more contact with our sports. So, as always, thank you for watching.